What's going on, Cancer? I salute the divinity in you, and welcome to the Chariot Friends. Justin here, and how you feeling today, Cancer? You ready for this moon in Aquarius? I really like the moon in Aquarius. This I feel is always for me personally. I find that I do feel a bit more detached from things. Like Aquarius moon tends to get us more in a cerebral type of place, so I feel like that allows us to really kind of see where we've been kind of focused in. What are some things that we need to shift around? I've always appreciated an Aquarius moon for that to kind of get a fresher perspective on some things, but we'll get into that more in a moment. But if you're new to this channel, welcome, and know that when you're coming across this, you're in sync with the moon, and she loves that. And this is also a place for you if you have Cancer in your placements. Sun, moon, rising, maybe Saturn, wherever. This one's for you. Or if you just want to kick it with Cancer, just sync up with the moon, you're always welcome here. And I do tarot card spreads based off the lovely ruler here, the good old moon. Look at that. I was gonna find the words for her, how spectacular she is. And I'll talk about what sign she's in, what phase she's in, and when she's going for it, of course. Just all of those lunar shenanigans. And just so you're all aware, this is a general reading, not a one-to-one. So take what fits into your story, discard the rest, and everything will be dope, Cancer. Now, let's jump into it. All right. Oh, okay. Not as smooth as I thought that was going to be, but it's fine. Cancer, your space has been cleansed. Crystals, let's get them more in the picture here. Look at them. Feeling lovely. Just great energy all around here. Oh, and I love this. Look at Saturn showing up on a Saturn day. Depending on when you're watching this, happy Saturn day. Saturn is associated with Saturdays. And Saturn days, I find, are a great time for getting things in order, for seeing where you've been maybe putting off your stuff during the week, what's been needing your attention. Maybe you have some bills that you're needing to get caught up on. Maybe just some general housework. Maybe you've been working real hard this week. Maybe you need to be a little disciplined. Thinking with Saturn being in Pisces, maybe we need to take a little bit of time to be disciplined as far as like taking more time for rest, taking more time for some creative endeavor, something to help you move through these emotions, something to help you connect with your spiritual side of you. So I enjoy a nice little Saturn day, especially. And you know what, working with Saturn hours as well can be really great as well. There's numerous apps that you can get with this. There's one, TimePassages, that, or not TimePassages, Nomad has a great little add-on. I think it actually comes free with it, but they include the planetary hours. And then you could just actually look that stuff up online too, however that works for you there. In the Time Nomad, there's the app itself is free, and then there's some things that you can add on to it. A very, very useful app. So those are just some ways that I like to play around with these energies. Let's play around with a little bit more, because on the 14th, the moon is going to be entering into Aquarius at about 12:53 a.m. and that's going to be Pacific time. She's going to be forming about 5 aspects with the traditional planet. So we got a pretty busy couple of days that the moon's going to be bringing up some energies. And she is in a waxing gibbous phase. Now, when we're talking about the moon in Aquarius, that is the fixed air sign. Their ruler is Saturn. And so there is this, when you think about the air signs, where Libra is the initiator of the thought, Aquarius is what sustains that thought. Fixed signs have this staying power, this perseverance. When they lock onto something, they could see it through. So this could be one way to work with this, is to see, what is your vision? You know, what things have you been locking in on? Thanks, Divine Self. What things have you been locking in on? Just pay attention where your mind's been at. Has there been a lot of anxiety? Has there been a lot of fear? And what's been going, and why has that been coming up? And what are some ways that we can help assuage that? It can help you get out of your mind and to get more into your heart, I feel, with Aquarius. Because where Aquarius does have a very strong mental energy, when it's an overload, it can lead to its detriment. So that's just something to pay attention to. I'd also look to see where maybe you might have been limiting your ways of thinking in certain ways. Maybe you've been thinking you can only do something one kind of way, that fixed air, and been setting this foundation. But now this Aquarius can have you break out of that a little bit more. See see something different. You know what I mean? Offer a different perspective, I feel, with Aquarius. It's not that the fixed energies can't change their mind. It just takes a little bit of time to pivot. So just pay attention to where, let's say, for example, if you're like, oh, I couldn't possibly do this, I can't possibly do that. We're setting a limit on ourselves. And it's like, why do you think you can't do that? Allow yourself to challenge those laws. If there's just like, okay, I can't do this because I need a certain schooling, I need this, I need that, or the third, then you can do it. It's just that you may not be enthusiastic about the steps that it takes to get to that goal, and honor that. And that's okay with Saturn. Saturn is, I feel, with Saturn energy, it's not something that you, whatever we're building on, however we're maybe changing this mental state or anything along those lines, especially if this is something that you've been operating in for quite a while, it may take the same amount of time to adjust that. So let's say if we've been in like a self-deprecative sort of mental state, for example. I'm thinking about just with myself. There was a period of time where I was spending a lot of time in a lower vibration, attracting those things. And now that, over these years now of really kind of working in, showing up each day, changing the mindset, working with affirmations and such, it has been such a drastic shift compared to where I've been. Actually, my partner was just telling me this statement that I had made a while back. We've been together about 10 years, and probably about in the height of my drinking, I remember he told me I had made this statement as far as like, don't ever tell me not to to never stop drinking or something along those lines. I was like, wow, that's some strong things to say. And that's the thing too. The power of the word is a mighty thing. The word is a powerful tool, especially when we're in air energy. So pay attention too. It's not to create this fear or anything, but it's to create more consciousness around what are the words, the stories that you're putting out. When you're going to talk about your everyday in your life, are we bemoaning all of the things that are bringing us down, or are we? It's one thing if life is kind of you're going through a lesson, or you're not even a lesson, but you're going through a challenge. And it's like where, okay, yeah, this challenge is going on. This is what I'm doing to combat that. And this is what I'm doing to show up each day. So it's not that we're ignoring the problem. We're just approaching it from a different standpoint. So those are just some things that I offer with this moon in Aquarius. Because when we're in the waxing gibbous phase, we're starting to get a lot of light here. We're getting closer to that full moon and that eclipse that's going to be happening here in a couple of days. And when we're getting into that I feel like when we're getting into that waxing gibbous phase, depending on how you're working with this, if this is more of on a monthly basis, this is where the time where things are really starting to cook. So let's say, for example, if you've been maybe starting to do a new sleep routine, this could be where you're starting to really see the benefits from that. Now you've been really feeling, maybe if you've been getting it more consistently, now we're feeling a lot more energized. The mind is feeling sharper. The emotions are feeling more manageable. And if not, then this is a realization. It's like, okay, maybe I need to shift things a little bit. Maybe I need to try drinking, like, if the sleep is not just enough, maybe it's like I need to work in like a calming tea, or maybe I want to get outside and do some walking, or I'm just throwing out some general stuff here. So, but I do like when we're in the waxing gibbous phase, it's typically when the moon is starting to form, that we're getting into like this, compared to the sun, she would have just passed that trine out of Capricorn, but we're still kind of in that sort of like, it's this forward moving energy that I feel is happening with the gibbous. There's this expansion that's happening. Now, let's talk about the void of course here, then we'll get into the reading. With the void of course, that's going to be happening on Sunday, the 15th of September, and that's going to go from 12:09 p.m. to about till Moon Day, the 16th of September, to about 2:39 a.m. So we're looking at about a 14-hour and 30-minute void of course time. And the void of course is when the moon forms her final aspect with the celestial body. And again, I'm working with the traditional planets here. And it's where usually the void of course is not a time to really start things up. There's not a lot of, the moon doesn't have any more aspects that's just formed, so there's no more energy behind it. So this is a great time to like wrap up any sort of like projects that you're starting up. If you're wanting to start something during the void of course, just write it down. Write down some things and then see how you're feeling after once we get into the Pisces moon. Are we still feeling the same way about it? Because once the moon gets into that new chapter, the story changes a little bit. Your feelings are changing. Circumstances may change. The energy changes. So that's just something I feel to pay attention with the void. Of course, great time for getting some rest, for recharging your batteries, for going within, doing some deep breathing. So if you can find some time in that to do some nice things for yourself, to maybe even give the mind a bit of a break. Maybe do some painting. Do something that doesn't require any sort of like thinking. Maybe you're doing some wood carving, or maybe you're doing some, maybe you're working on a car, but I mean, like something to just kind of get you more so in a flow state, as opposed to like just like a heavy mental state all the time. And then the aspect that she forms with the last celestial body usually flavors that void, of course. And I really like this one because she's going to be forming, the last aspect she forms is a trine with Venus. And now trine energies is there when the planets excuse me, when the planets are 120 degrees apart, and there's this flow that's happening. They're Jupiterian in nature, so there's this expansiveness, there's this movement that's happening. The trines are considered the most favorable of aspects. And when we're talking about with Venus, this is paying attention to, I feel like you can start attracting more of the things that you're wanting. So if you're wanting to, let's say, you've been having a lot of troubles getting up some rest. Let's say you've been getting to bed on time, but maybe you're noticing there's a lot of noise that's going on during the middle of the night, or maybe there's some whatever disturbance this may be. I feel like this can be where you're attracting more solutions to solve these problems. Maybe you're needing to get some earplugs. Maybe you're needing to have some ambient music play on in the background to kind of help drown that out. Maybe you're needing to do some like aromatherapy. Maybe work with some essential oils, maybe sprinkle that on like a cloth, or maybe put it on like on the back of a pillowcase, however that may be working for you. But I feel the trine energy when we're talking with Venus is how we magnetize, how we experience beauty, love, and things along those lines. So just in general, this void of course can be just a time to do some loving things for yourself. Allow that fixed air to focus on some sort of creative endeavor. That's something Venusian, I feel, during this period of time. I feel that could be a very lovely way of working with this void of course energy. So just some things to think about. And if you're wanting to work a bit more closely with the moon, wanting to see how like as far as like setting intentions, maybe whether this be on like a monthly basis, maybe you're working with your lunar return, or if you're wanting to work on more of a long-term basis, even more like over like the 27-month cycle that the moon phases has, check down in the description box below. Either you can book a free consultation with me. We can talk about the different services that I provide, or I also have a link down there. I host different moon groups each month, and we work with each new moon, and we look at the different area or different houses that would happen in each chart where this is happening for people. What would be some things that would be beneficial for you to try to work on during that time, and something that we're cultivating over this long-term span here. And it also to establishes this strong sense of community, and it would provide you with different resources and things along those lines as I'm getting courses built up and stuff like that. So if that's something that you're interested in, there's a link down there for that as well. This is going to be a kind of a big one, since we're going to be having that new moon solar eclipse that's going to be happening in Libra. So this could be an exciting time to really set some big changes there. So if that's something that's curious, and again, that's down in the description box for you. Now, last little thing here, these readings that I do, they're not gender-specific readings, so apply these energies to people as they make sense for your situations. And before we get into this thing, actually, I want to bring in some nice vibes here. So adjust your volume if you need to, but I'm going to ring this bell here, get some high vibrations, and then we will get into this thing. So All right, let's get into this thing. Ooh, look at this. This gives me very Saturn vibes. So you have the Obsidian and Hellbore, and maybe it's Hellebore. Hellebore card here. And this is a card of Shadow Mirror. That's interesting. This is fire and water energy. Ooh, and this is a card of deep healing, understanding, and seer. Now, with that seer card, that's interesting. So what I'm getting with this is, again, with that Aquarius energy, if where you've been operating here recently, maybe maybe there's been a lot of stress that's been going on. Maybe there's been some uncertainty. Whatever this is in the future is seeming uncertain. One thing with the seer, I feel we want to be mindful about staying in a particular vibration for so long, because then again we start to attract more of that of ourselves. And if all you're seeing is just the shadow side of things, then it's going to be hard to see the polar opposite of that. And I think that what this card is getting, this understanding, it's not that we're rejecting the shadow side. The shadow energies, it's like this energy of like light versus dark, or even consciousness versus unconsciousness. This understanding is giving me the shadow side is showing things that are coming up in your unconscious, and then it's just like, how do we take this and get a more conscious understanding of what kind of deeper healing is trying to come from that, so that the lighter side of the mirror can come through. Because that's interesting how I was talking about that opposites with fire and water. Even though fire and water technically don't mix, water puts out fire, or water can evaporate, or water puts out fire, or fire can evaporate water. I feel when they come together in balance, you can create tea. That's how you make soup. That's how you can make a lot of things. But I do feel like that there's this understanding here that there are going to be shadow aspects of this journey, but it's not all shadow. Even when you think about the what am I drawing for you here? The astrology charts. They're divided into 12 segments. And when you think about it, there are maybe 3 or 4 unfavorable houses. The 12th house, the 8th, the house of like misfortunes, suffering, isolation, the 8th house, death, inheritance, things like that. 6th house, illness, injuries. Even like the 2nd house, finances sometimes can be a little tricky. In the 3rd house. The 3rd house is more of like a neutral house, neither bad nor good. It just depends on what's going on, of course. And then the rest are solid. So we got about 4 tough areas and 8 favorable areas. So it's understanding that there is this balance that is happening here. And that's what I'm really kind of getting. Let me get some tarot on this and see if we can get a deeper understanding of this. Because I feel when we have this deeper understanding of what the purpose of the shadow is, this changes what we envision our future to be. Let me get the tarot on this and see what's going on here. And what are some things that you're telling yourself when you're looking in the mirror? That might be something even too. Thanks, Divine Self. Doing some mirror work possibly here. Looking at yourself and affirming yourself. Like, okay, I may not be sure where I'm going. This is just an example, but I've done this before. I've been in a place where I've not been sure, but I've figured it out. I've gotten this far, and as long as I keep showing up, then things are going to change. Man, look at all this. You are divinely protected here. Nothing but majors. So this is a big deal, Cancer. You have the free man here, which is the Fool. You have the Black Hermit, which is the Magician. You have the Big House, which is the Tower, and then we have the Strength card here, which is Leo. And that's what this energy, this deep healing, requires a lot of strength. It requires a lot of strength, and it requires depth. It requires this repetition. But imagine this tiger here is that shadow side. Look how she's embracing that. There's no judgment. This tiger's looking this tiger's ferocious. But it may only seem like that until you understand the relationship that is built here. I feel like between the two, the strength and the bond that these two have formed with each other. This cat here is, it's not like it's like you need to be on guard, like defensive. It's just like a need to, like, hey, you're tougher than you realize. This is just like, hey, snap out of that. You can change and be a free person whenever you are ready. Whenever you can create this change with this big house here. It's like, I like with this big house, it's like, are we only focusing on that shadow side, or are we catching in? You see how there's this, I know this is like looking through rose-colored glasses in this card, but I'm more so getting this energy here of how sometimes, even I feel like as how we've been kind of conditioned as a society, and I think that that's changing, to kind of see the darker things and kind of focus on that and only have such a limited space for the light. But I feel like there's a need to have more of that kind of yin-yang balance, even in like that I'm thinking of that symbol, where in the light there's a touch of dark, and in the dark there's a touch of light, but there's always in this flow, that Pisces, that Saturn and Pisces energy. And so I feel as you begin to understand yourself, begin to do this deeper healing, the mindset starts to adjust, and you start getting fixed on a different type of future. You start bringing in a different type of change to your life here. I'm gonna get a little bit more on the Magician here. See what's going on with that. And even in the Magician, he's holding this wand that says power on it. So I'm getting something even here. Thanks, Divine Self. Let me see what's going on. Oh, interesting. So the Black Hermit is clarified by the Four of Knives and Bishop CH Mason, which is the Hierophant. And this Four of Knives is giving me, if you've been in, this is a card of healing. This is a card of doing of resting. It may be, especially if I feel like if your mind or if something you've been overly stimulated, and I don't even mean just by information, even just pay attention to some of the songs that you may be listening to, some of the music. How is that making you feel? How is that helping paint your view? Because I remember I was just talking with someone about this. We were talking about a song and she was telling me about what the meaning behind it was. And it's just a song I just not one I really listen to that often. So I was just like, that's curious that was about. But it made me kind of think about how sometimes we can. And I don't think it's meant to be a malicious thing, but I think that sometimes in music, musicians can put a lot of their trauma out there and not realize that when you're saying those things and you're chanting those things over and over and over again, how that does attract into your world. That kind of, think about the time, I'm thinking growing up, it was all live fast, die young, sex, all these things, and just like really spread our energies real thin. And I even think about some of the stuff that I used to write. I've mentioned this before. I remember writing an album, and when I went to listen back to it years later, I was just like, man, there was just so much that I was trying to work through, so much deeper healing that needed to be understood. And I'm glad that I didn't release that. It was something, I'm glad that was more so for me. And now it makes it, when I'm thinking about my future creative endeavors, I am being a way more mindful with what I'm doing and what I'm putting with my music, because it has a lot of power here. And I feel that the Hierophant is giving me this, I'm getting establishing a new type of tradition here. I'm getting the Freeman's coming in through here with kind of coupling with this, establishing a new tradition in how I feel like you're going about your world. He's got this, his tongue is branded. interestingly enough, I have to look into like what the story behind. Let me pull that up real quick for because the story behind him is very interesting with him. So with Bishop C.H. Mason, I'm trying to see what the story is behind him and why his tongue is like that's going to take me a minute to find. But what I'm getting with this is that kind of like life and death and the power of the tongue. And especially with this being in this air energy, I just feel like it's like just calling on a different understanding here. Something that brings more ease, more flow, more something that doesn't make you that doesn't affect your manifestation so negatively here. And this may be a big change that needs to be happening here with the big house. This is Mars energy. You got Mars, Uranus, Mercury, and Leo energy being here in the mix. So it's just like something I feel like is needing to is maybe changing in a big way. But let's get some more on this. Thanks, myself. Ooh, more majors. More majors and then your wish fulfilled. So you got the Ten of Baskets, Dr. Grant, which is the Hermit, that's Virgo, and then you got Gullah Jack, which is Neptune energy. And it's the Hanged Man. And the Hanged Man is giving me this, again, kind of looking at something from a different perspective, a need to get a new insight on something. Both the Hermit and with the combined with the Hanged Man, that's really deep meditation. As far as this Ten of Baskets, the dream, the things, the action that you've taken to get to your dreams, is that what you wanted? Is this what you thought that you would feel your future would be? And if not, that's okay, because you can change things whenever you're ready. It doesn't have to stay like this if you're not satisfied with where things are at. You have the power here, magician, to manifest your world. You have all the tools that you need, and you have the strength to do it, and you're ferocious doing it. You're a force to be reckoned with. And I think it's really just kind of meditating on that and really, really holding that feeling in your body, doing maybe some visualization techniques, working with some sort of affirmations, maybe getting into some sort of prayer, whatever that might look like for you. But there are these opposites need each other. And life is always going to wax and wane, ebb and flow, increase and decrease. And so knowing that, it's just like, how do we get the most out of when things are rising in order to cushion us when things are falling, so that we can reevaluate what needs to change in order to bring in the next sort of bit. How is the future changing here? Because the Ten of Baskets is the wish fulfilled. And that's why I say it's like with Aquarius and any fixed energy, you want to be very mindful about what you're fixated on. And I get where our thoughts are going to do what they do. They're going to do what they do. They're going to come in sometimes aggressive. But if we're just as aggressive with our words, then they're always going to win out in the end. It's just again, it's something that's going to take practice, is what I'm getting. And practice is going to make perfect with that. But like one example that I'm thinking about, it's not that funny, but it's just a fact of just like how powerful when we fixate on something, how it can come to fruition. I may have mentioned this story before, where I know this person who has a fixed sun. They don't have a lot of fixed energy in their chart, but their sun's in a fixed sign. And they were making a statement. They were with this person that had just gotten out of a relationship, out of a long-term relationship, and they were just starting something new. And this person would always make jokes about, because them and the person stayed friends, the ex. Not, and it the person kept making this joke as far as, oh, you're talking with your parking with your ex, you're going to get back with your ex, do you miss your ex? So, just kept putting that in, and that wasn't the case. But then things started happening, some stuff started to change, and at the time the person would go to was of course talking with them, and it was just really interesting, like how after a while those two did end up breaking up, and then them and the ex did get back together. But it wasn't that the ex interfered with the person, because that guy got the whole story on that. The ex didn't interfere in this, but it was the other person that kept pushing that energy along, that kept that thought alive and kept putting that there, and their wish came true. And I feel like it happened for them for a reason, and not in a bad way. I just meant that it just happened. That was such, that's such is life, and it's just like the one of the lessons that you the deeper understandings that you get into life, or get from life. But very interesting here. Let's get some advice from Saturn. Thanks, Divine Self. That's a lovely thing to focus on. So you have the Inspiration and Courage card here. And let's shift back over, because I feel like couples very well with this Strength card here. When you're able to find strength in those dark times, you find inspiration. You can find the courage. And again, I feel like this is something that is it's getting in to the ritual of things that inspire you. Okay, life has gotten in this low. What do I want to, what things would I want to see happen in order for it to change? And then what do those daily activities look like? The Ten of Baskets is Mars in Pisces. And so what actions, like I said, what actions do you need to take to keep those inspiration and to keep that courage in the face of harder times? Because again, they're going to happen in varying degrees, of course. But there are going to be times where the doubts come in, the fear. This doesn't even have to be like big stuff that's happening in life. This can just be like just typical doubts, fears, whatever that may, anxieties that may come in. And how do you keep that inspiration when they're getting aggressive? I'm talking with this one Virgo sun that has it's feeling a lot of anxieties and things, but then they had mentioned that their rational mind can be very aggressive, and I was just like, well, then you just have to be just as aggressive with the inspirations and the courage, and then honor that and they're like, well, I'm doing all the work, and I was like, well, then you're doing great. Then don't beat yourself up. It's something that it's not like an instant thing with Saturn. We're not talking Mars here right now. Saturn is something that you got to stay disciplined with. You have to take time with. Saturn, I like to think of the analogy is that you have this plot of land. A utopia doesn't just build overnight. It takes nourishment. It takes time. We got to tweak out some things. There's some things that are going to be working real great, and there's some things that we're going to have to demolish and rework over time. But, try not to let that discourage you or dishearten you. Let that empower you and get you excited, because you get to watch yourself and grow each day. You're looking to, okay, how's the growth happening today? Like, it fuels something different in you, and it just lights you up in a really genuine type of way here. Again, this doesn't feel like you're not faking something. You're not lying to yourself. You're just trying to create the future that you actually want to see come to fruition, because again, you have the power to do that. And you could be potentially, your story will be an inspiration, it'll be an inspiration for those in your environment. I'm inspired by Cancer. Every time you show up and do the things that you do, that inspires me to keep doing the things that I do. And I hope that I do the same I have faith that I do the same things for you, for those who, when you take the things that resonate with you. And so that's what I got for you. So if you like that, or if anything resonated with you, give it a thumbs up. And share this if you know someone who may benefit from this, who may help, And you know what? Something to actually just to think about this. I know I've mentioned this before. There's this guy I used to know who would put sticky notes. He's the one who really kind of inspired me to put different affirmations all around my space. Is that he would, and I like that he put it in the bathroom, because when he's looking at himself, he's seeing this affirmations, and then he's looking at himself and saying these things like, yes, I am amazing. I'm going to conquer this day perfectly under grace. All of those things. It can be so empowering. And then subscribe there, you strength, you powerful figure. Hit that bell button to get notified when I release videos each day. And then last little bit. Come over to my other channel, Alchemist 8. I do weekly videos talking about the different transits that's going on up in the sky, and I also do different videos talking about different planetary placements and things. Speaking of Mars being here, next one I'm gonna be and Taurus showed up earlier. I'm gonna be doing Mars and Taurus next, so that's something to look forward to. I've been doing them pretty consistently. There's no kind of rhyme or reason when they come out. They just get released when they get released. And all that housekeeping is down in the description box below. But let me get you surprise cards here, or cards here, so I can get you out of here. Oh, okay. We got a stack. Thanks, Divine Self. Interesting. Oh, it's like 3 cards. It's fine. Oh, interesting. So the first card here is you have the cannabis card, and this is a card of detachment, and it's associated with, wow, Saturn, no, Saturn's not here, well, Saturn's up here, but it's Saturn and Neptune, and then you have the Palo Santo card, which is the Guardian card, and this is associated with the South Node and Pluto. And then you have the Cordyceps card here, which is a card of revival, and this is associated with Jupiter, Pluto, and Mars. Now let's talk about this Cordyceps card first here, because I do feel that in that shadow work is where the revival happens. It's in the darkness, because when you think about when you're planting a seed, it's in absolute darkness. It's just covered in the earth, but it's getting this energy. It's getting enriched by the earth. It's not a fear of growing. It's this like, okay, I have the space to do this healing. Look at this DNA that's kind of rising up. It's coming out of the ground and rising up as this mighty eagle here. Sacred bird is what I'm getting. But I do, that's the analogy that's the visuals that I'm getting. You start from that earth, and then trees are growing. They may grow out of the ground and come out of that darkness, but they don't forget their roots. That's something I feel like is coming together too. And know that you are guarded in this growth, I feel, with this Palo Santo card here. And maybe we're needing to, with the cannabis card, and that's something I would say I'm getting more with this cannabis, is paying attention to how you're detaching from things, because Saturn and Neptune are going to be forming a conjunction in this. I think it's going to be in 2026 when they're coming exactly at zero, where they're both going to be at 0 degrees of Aries. And I feel like that's a real potent point that those two are making. And I think that this is looking at to see how you've been maybe detaching from this darkness, how we may not have been dealing with something, and finding an alternative way or something more sustainable, I feel, is to get you through these darker times. That's just something I would pay to. It's one thing I feel when you're needing to look, like, to get I'm even getting with this, maybe we're needing to talk with someone, possibly, in the sense of, like, this can be, like, it could be a therapist, or it could be like a friend, a life coach, whatever, but someone that can maybe help you see your darkness outside from your vision, because we can only see we only have this one point of view. We need these others to kind of help us see outside of ourselves a little bit. Sometimes we can see this, like, oh my gosh, I'm here, here, and here. It's like, what are you talking about? Actually, you're like here, here, and here. You've always inspired me. Like, that's something I feel could maybe bring some support there. But I pay really attention to that because I do believe that that things are going to start coming to fruition for us collectively a lot faster over these next couple of years. And then, so how you're manifesting right now and where you're creating from is going to be pivotal. What roots are you laying down right now? Because when that conjunction happens, this is going to be a different ball game. And I'm excited for it. I'm really excited for what this is going to bring because I've already seen where I'm noticing what I'm doing and I'm noticing what the people around me are doing. And I see what's going on out there. And we could just focus on, like I was talking about, all this big house stuff, all the just the that's going on, but there's all this brightness that's getting ready to come out the forefront here, and I want that to send that out as a beacon for you. But all those light workers have to, and I'm talking about you. We're all doing this light work. Had to understand what shadow work needed to be done in order to grow. So the shadow mirror is just as important as the light mirror. It's like I'm even thinking like the north and the south node. So just some things to kind of contemplate on there, but I'm going to leave that there. So until next time, stay mindful out there. Keep raising that vibrations through the roof. Raise that consciousness through the roof, And I will catch you on the next one. When I catch you? Moon Day.